Hello everyone and welcome to today's show with sportsbookreview.com. I'm your host Lee Martin and we're here to talk NASCAR. We have the Xfinity race coming up this Saturday, June 6th, and the Cup Series race coming up on Sunday, June 7th. And I have with me today to break down the races, JJ with the Bet Crushers. But before we get into any NASCAR talk, like always, real quick, give us a like and subscribe to our channel. That way you never miss a show. Now let's get to it. How are you doing today, JJ?
Fantastic. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. Thank you for asking. Now, let's just get right into it. We're going to start with the Xfinity Series. It's going to be 162 laps, 250 miles. It's the Echo Park 250. Just real quick and brief, what would be your top pick and breakdown for that race?
There was a couple guys that I'm looking at here. Not sure if I'm going to play this, but looking at two guys that give you at least some return when you factor that Chase Briscoe is the favorite at plus 250. I mean, he's taken that step. He's having a great season, 2 wins, just came off a runner-up, but I can't get there with plus 250. So I looked at Austin Cindric. He's about 7-1, something like that. Mm-hmm. He's had 2 or 4 top 5s in the 7 races this year. He had a very unfortunate accident last week at Bristol, but that's Bristol, right? So he's had 2 races here, and they were both top 10s. So I see if he's a guy who is kind of taking that step this year, a couple wins, this could be a big one for him, 7-1. But realistically, I'm looking at Noah Gragson, 12-1. So double digits for a guy who he's won 2 races. He won at Bristol and he won at Daytona. So 2 totally different tracks, 2 totally different races came through, and you're finding him at double digits. He's finished no worse than 11th all year except at California. And he was 9th last year in his debut at Atlanta. So he can run this track. He was 4th at Charlotte last year. So, I mean, he can get it done on the quad oval, and he's won twice. So why not at double digits at 12-1? I may actually, put a little something on that. I do like that number for him. So
Noah Gragson, correct?
Yes.
All right. So via BetOnline, Noah Gragson is plus 600. And Chase Briscoe is plus 250, okay. And Austin Cindric is plus 700 via BetOnline's odds. All right. But let's just move on to the Cup Series. That is going to be the Folds of Honor QuikTrip 500. It's 325 laps, 500 miles. Now, the last Cup Series race was on May 31st, and the winner was Brad Keselowski, my man. So on Sunday, Who do you think will have the most success at Atlanta Motor Speedway? Who do you think has the most experience, most wins? Just elaborate on that.
I mean, look, Atlanta, like Charlotte, high bank, quad oval, fast track. I mean, I know they're only doing the 550 horsepower package, but this is a fast track and it rewards speed. So there's no wonder why you see fast cars at the top of the odds board. Kevin Harvick, Chase Elliott, Alex Bowman, these guys have all been fast this year. And then you look at it, Harvick opened as the favorite. He'll probably stay there, my guess, about 550. He's not being overlooked by the books. He's only won here once recently, but since he joined Stewart-Haas in 2014, he's led 960 laps at Atlanta. So he's not fooling anybody, even though he's only been able to get that 1 win recently. But he's always a contender here, and he's been a contender all year. So he's finished top 10 in 8 of the last 9 in Atlanta. And when you figure that they adopted the stage scoring system for the last 3 years, in those 3 races, he's won 4 stages. So he's been strong in many parts of the races at Atlanta. So no doubt he's the favorite. Kyle Busch is right there. No surprise, right? Every week you're seeing him at the top or right next to the top, and for good reason. He's always a threat to win in the 18. But it's been since 2013 that he won at Atlanta, and it's really been a mixed bag ever since. No real consistency from him. But it's kind of like his season right now. He's got 5 top 5s this year, but when he has been out of a race, he's been out of the race. So it's tough to see that. It's tough to take that short a number with, kind of the inconsistency we're seeing out of Kyle Busch. But for me, it's the defending champ, Brad Keselowski, right? He opened up around plus 770, I think, 7, 8. Now I'm seeing him at like 9 plus 950. He also won here in 17. He, even though he's only led 92 laps in these last 3 races at Atlanta, 2 of which he won. 1, he was the runner-up. He's only led those 92 laps, but he was right there in 17, right there in 18. And amazingly, if you remember, he battled his way from a stomach flu last year. I think he started 19th and held off MTJ for the win. So, he's been a front runner, and he's also had to come from behind here. And that's, kind of how he's been this season recently too. So you got this whole, he's double hot, right? So he's hot coming into the race in 20, and then he's really hot at Atlanta right now. So even if some of that was from good circumstances, but at 9-1, 10-1, I think you definitely got to give him a look.
Yeah. So I'm looking at right now, the last time I looked, Brad Keselowski was plus 750 via Bet Online, but I'm checking right now, he is plus 1,000. So that's a little good. Now, yes?
No, that's right. Yeah. He's kind of been all over the place, I guess, bouncing between 7 and 9. So it's a matter of timing. We'll see. Other books will open up here before too long too. So
yeah. So how do you think Brad will perform on Sunday? Like, do you think he's going to be towards the top again? I know you just spoke a bit about him, but let me ask, do you think he'd be like top 3? We can go there.
Yes. Yeah, I would go there. I mean, I would even look at that price. But I mean, that's where he's been. That's where he's been at now. And he's been putting himself in that position. So think like if Logano and Elliott wouldn't have wiped out at the end of Bristol, he was still right there. So even if he wouldn't have won the race, I think you would say if he came in with a 3rd place from Bristol, you'd say he's running very well. He's winning, he's converting, he's top 3, that sort of territory. I see that here for him.
Yeah. All right. So let's just move on to the next question. So you mentioned Kevin Harvick, Brad Keselowski, Kyle Busch. Are there any other drivers that you find the most value when it comes to odds?
I do. There's a few that really scare me because it's a boom or bust type of situation. But then you have almost the opposite with a guy like Kurt Busch. If you could get him at 20-1, I'm seeing 16 in one place. There's a chance that he could float up. It's not too hard to go from 16 to 18 to 20, even across a number of books. But for anywhere close to 20-1, I probably pound the table a little too much for Kurt at times. I play him a lot. I love him in top 10s at the tracks where he's very consistent. He gives you a chance. He's in the race, and at the end, he finds his way there. And we're seeing that this year. He's doing a very good job of getting up into contention, even if he's not really even if he doesn't have the speed like Bowman, like Elliott, like these guys that can run out and get 100, 150 laps that they're leading the race. He's the kind of guy that he's there, and he's a good racer, and he's got a good car. So he's 6 of his last 7. He's finished in the top 10 this year. So he's doing a very good job of that overall. But at Charlotte, he's even more consistent. So I think, he's going to give you a run for that 20-1, even if I don't really think he has more than a 10% chance to win it. But, it's a good return.
Yeah. So via Bet Online, Kurt Busch is at plus 1,800. So we're good with that one. Now, we just spoke about most valuable drivers. Are there any drivers that you would fade in this lineup?
So, that's a really good question. And, I've thought about that pretty hard. At the beginning of the week, after the last race, so in this case, on Monday, I sit down and start to take some notes as far as my thoughts on the guys, how they're doing right now, perspective as of the last race, but also, how have they done at this track that they're coming up to? And, are we seeing some strengths combined? And I also see at times where it's like this person is a total mismatch. So if you can find them at this price to go against them in a matchup or whatever it may be, then I tried to do that with several bets. Twice this year, I've gone out and explicitly faded Martin Truex Jr. in a couple positions, including just last week at Bristol. This week is not quite as cut and dried. I hate to say it. And mine is more of like a stay away And it could be a little bit personal because of some poor success with this person. But what bothers me is the swings between the high and the low, and that's Ryan Blaney. He opened around 17-1, and that is an amazing number for a guy who is driving fast. He drives aggressively. He's young, and he's got a rocket in the number 12 Mustang. He's got a very good ride, and again, Atlanta rewards speed. So he's a guy that can really get it done. But man, when he has miscues, he really pays for them. Unfortunately, when he spun out at Bristol, should have been fine. Should have been like Ryan Newman, who we were behind, who spun out twice and miraculously did not hit a wall or did not get hit by a person. But unfortunately, Ryan Blaney got the front end of his car ripped off. And two other times that I really felt strongly about him earlier in the season, Las Vegas, we had the late pit that cost him the top three, and then the tire issue at the end of California that really knocked him out of that position at the lead. So it was I have bad experience with Ryan Blaney, but I think it's a funny thing because I'm saying stay away, but that's maybe me personally. If you like risk, he's a guy with speed. He's a guy that can definitely win this race. As far as the two races at Charlotte, he came in third in both of those. So similar track, similar type of setup, even though it's a different race. That was his breakout at Charlotte, which was this year. And so with some similarity, he may be worth a shot. He's fast, but he scares me pretty bad. So I'm going to stay away from him.
All right. Well, if you do like some risk, like how JJ said, via BetOnline, Ryan Blaney is plus 1,400. So get on that if you want. But we're going to head on over to driver matchups next. All right. Via BetOnline, not BetOnline, via 5 Dimes, new book for me. We have Kyle Busch minus 110 versus Kevin Harvick minus 120. Can you give me your thoughts on that driver matchup?
Yeah, well, all right, we're in the hometown of Evander Holyfield, right? So this is the heavyweight battle right here. This is what we want to pay attention. Now, we don't know the starting lineup yet. The draw, I'm not sure exactly when the draw is going to take place, but we know generally the trenches that they are being drawn from. So we know that these guys are going to be in the top 15 or 20 guys to get the draw. And so they're going to be battling. I mean, Kyle, like I said before, Kyle's been a little bit inconsistent, but when he's a player, he is fast, he is threatening, and he can race. Charlotte, he's got a fast car. Those Joe Gibbs Toyotas have traditionally been fast, even though I'd say you could argue that they're a little bit off or something this year. They haven't started to click. Now, Kyle opened as a slight dog to Harvick. And again, Harvick's the race favorite. I would argue he deserves to be favorite. So I don't have an issue with the price. But, Harvick's outraced Kyle the last 3 times at Atlanta. So that's important to know. But it took his best effort to do that. Kyle was very good. So if Harvick has a little bit of a mediocre or, 9th place, 8th place, he could easily lose to Kyle because he's that good. They've been neck and neck in many head-to-head contests this season. The ones that Kyle were really out of, he was really out of. But otherwise, he challenges Harvick. Both guys are fast. Both race with an upper hand. So I think this is shaded properly towards Harvick, and I think it's a fair price. But I would go with Harvick, but maybe more at like even money or something like that.
All right, I'll keep that in mind. Let's head on over to our next driver matchup. Oh, I love this one. Joey Logano plus 105 versus Brad Keselowski minus 135. Again, this is via 5 Dimes. Can you give me your take on that matchup?
These are your boys, right?
Yeah, these are my boys.
All right. Brad and Joey. Well, the Fords are fast this year. I mean, the Camaros are pretty fast too, but these Fords, the Penske guys are super fast. Now, I will make a disclaimer. I got a full disclosure here. My mother-in-law, with our weekly calls to the mother-in-law, who's been an avid NASCAR fan, she likes Logano in this one. So there's a little bit of bias in this household. But that being said, I mean, Brad is too tough to discount. We just went over, why that he's been successful here and why I think even at 9-1 or something, if you like playing guys to win, that's still worth, that's very good money for a guy who's just winning, right? And it's tough to discount the whole double heat factor. Hot at this track, hot coming in on the season. despite the narrative that he's been fortunate at times. Well, he's still getting it done. He's still up there. But Logano has been pretty good too. So he won in Vegas. He won at Phoenix. Now those were before the break, the season break. And he's been decent. He's got some sixths in there after the break, but he didn't have the success he did earlier. But he's been good at Atlanta, so he could give he could give Brad a run for his money, and I think it should be a good matchup. I still like Brad here. He's finished better than Joey the last 4 races, even though Logano had a wheel issue last year that really kind of cost him. He was up there in the lead as well, but I wouldn't lay the 130 or 135 in this, even though I really like Keselowski here, because Logano, you can't discount him. He's a very tough racer. He's good.
All right, I'll keep that in mind. We'll see how it goes on Sunday. Now, to finish up driver matchups, do you have a favorite matchup of your own that you're looking into?
We've kicked some things around. We've actually gotten on 3 matchups going into this, but there's a lot to look at here coming down the next few days, and as some more books open up with matchups, top 5s, top 10s. But this is going to be like a broken record player, but I'm looking at, I'm looking to go again with Brad Keselowski against Alex Bowman. I really like this matchup. All the things we just talked about, Brad, the consistency, being up front, being strong. Bowman is that fast. Bowman has been up front. He's got a rocket this year. That 88 is really fast. He's led 369 laps this season, which is insane, right? Mm-hmm. So he got the win at Fontana, which is a track that has tire wear implications like Atlanta. So, he was able to successfully navigate that. But to be honest, I'm looking at Brad's consistency at being at the top tier versus Bowman having a top tier car and being a top tier driver, but not really being able to get it done. I'm not saying that he doesn't get it done, because he could win this race. He could come in 3rd. He could come in 26th, just like everybody. But realistically, he's had 2 great finishes this year, but otherwise he's done no better than 13th otherwise. So, he's had some high points, and then he's just kind of been taken out of contention for whatever reason. Misfortune, that's always part of NASCAR handicapping. But there's been some driver error in there, like the spin out that really cost him the other week. And then when you think about it, Brad has topped Alex the last 4 races, if you looked head to head this year after the first Darlington. So, Bowman has definitely stepped up. He's fast. He was fast last year, and we saw him growing, and there's a lot of expectations, and you're seeing it reflected in his price. When he opened, he was up there in the 7 and the 8 in that range, and I think he just now, from what I saw, at least at 5 dimes, he's evened up at 950 with Brad. But Bowman was a little more of a favorite earlier in the week, so. It doesn't matter to me whether Brad loses some of that misfortune or Bowman, loses his misfortune and Brad starts to kind of lose that golden shell. But Keselowski still has the upper hand here in my book. It's not about the 2 wins in the 3 races. It's about the fact that he was there and was ready to move in on it. So I think he's going to be up at the top. Bowman could very well too, but there's no reason why this should have opened at an even matchup. Now, egg will definitely be on my face because I've been all about Brad Keselowski here today. And if he lays an egg, so be it. But I think he's giving me the best shot here against Bowman. And this opened up at minus 115 pick'em. And so I was happy to get there with Brad. It's now at 130. I'm hoping maybe, one of the other books will open at a better deal. But this is the one that I really like this matchup here.
All right, so if you do want to get in on this matchup via 5 dimes, we have Brad Keselowski minus 130 and Alex Bowman plus 100. So there's that. Well, my last question to you, overall with this entire race, who would be your top pick? And just elaborate a little bit as to why.
Yeah, this is a tough one because I don't bet to win very often anymore. But, I look at these guys as far as their ability to win or the ability to, depending on the bet, beat someone else or to get into a top 10, whatever it may be. But when I look at the board and I look at the performance of these drivers, and I saw Eric Jones at around 30-1, something like that. Look, he's most likely in a position to be in the top 10. And that gives you the opportunity for him to get up there and win in case something happens, or if has a good strategy, whatever it may be. But 30-1 is really good. But I can't really say that that's a top pick because it's got a low chance of happening. But I would think you got to look at Martin Truex Jr. realistically. I said I just intentionally faded him last week at Bristol, but this isn't Bristol, and he's fast. The team, they had transition this year. I mean, Martin came in 19 with Cole Pern, and that now crew chief Pern leaves and their engineer takes over. So even if the relationship is good, there was already an existing relationship. They had to work through some of the logistics in the early season. Then we go on the hiatus and there's not much contact, and he comes back and still trying to feel all that out. But I think they are a great team. He's fast and he's starting to look better. And when you look at how he's done at Atlanta, he's seriously a contender. So you're looking at 7 of his last 8 races were top 10s. He was the runner-up last year. He was the 5th before that. So he's there. And he's a 2017 Cup champion. Second, he's the runner-up in 18 and 19. I mean, this guy is championship caliber no matter what he's racing. I mean, he wasn't always racing top-tier machines. It wasn't basically until Gibbs last year. Furniture Row before that was good. But, I mean, he may be getting older, but he races hard, and he's got a fast car, and you can never count him out. So I think if there was some way for you to get him above 10-1, then I think Truex is worth a really good shot. Yep.
All right. Well, via Bet Online, Martin Truex Jr. is plus 800. So if you want to get in on that, get in on it. All right. Well, that's all I have for today. Thank you so much for your time, JJ, and for dropping some knowledge today. If you aren't following him on Twitter, definitely give him a follow at the Bet Crushers. And also, if you're not following SBR on Twitter, definitely give us a follow at SBR Sports Picks, as well as on Instagram at SBR Sports Picks. All right. Thank you so much again for your time, JJ. Until next time.
Thank you, Lee.